Welcome everyone. I hope you guys are doing good. This is me, Abubakar Dalavar. I welcome you all to a latest episode of Founders Kahani. As you know, in Founders Kahani, we always invite amazing founders from all around the world so that you guys can get inspiration to build your Kahani as well, and you can get any benefits from our sessions in your Kahani. We have a diverse community of founders, investors, and industry leaders from all around the world. So we are bringing their kahanis to the world. So today we have an amazing guest with us, and I'm personally very excited about this uh, podcast. And I'm also going to learn a lot of things from this conversation today. To be honest, so please welcome Maarij Zeeshan. He's running his own marketing agency, which is expert in personal branding, in making things viral, in making things basically turn your social media into your benefit, into your lead gen thing. So please welcome Maarij. How are you, Maarij?
Hey, Wagner, thank you for inviting me and thank you for the kind intro.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So Maarij, this is Founders Kahani. So our first question is obviously, what's your kahani?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll go back to when I was in college. So I was just like anyone else, a pro college student trying to find my way out. I was surrounded in an environment where everyone was wanted to go the typical 9 to 5 route. And so I won't go extremely back, but I was never interested in the typical 9 to 5 environment myself because as my parents are both, they worked in the 9 to 5 for their whole lives. And I won't go into the exact details, but I understood that this is not made for me. I was always thinking that I'm made for something more, something more diverse. And naturally, when you're trying to ride against the wave, there are things that will come up, obstacles that will come up, and you're trying to pave your own path instead of other people trying to make a path for you. And so what happened was back in university, I started freelancing from absolute scratch. I had no business knowledge. No one in my family was running a business. So I was more into trying to find some skills that are aligned with my personality. So at that time, there was a huge boom in e-commerce. This around 2020 or so. And then I started a local e-commerce store. I got some funds from my uncle, who is now passed away, but it was my first taste in business. And that e-commerce store flopped. It was a huge failure. I spent 2 months in it, got no profit. Maximum, I broke even. But there were some losses, of course, with any failed business. But I don't regret that. So after my e-commerce store, I tried to pivot mostly into social media. And my friend at that time, she is an influencer, but at the same time, she was launching some of her merch. And she asked me if I did social media. And at that time, I didn't do anything related to social media, but I was heavily, I used to be a huge doom scroller. So I would understand how social media algorithms would work. So I said, let me get back to you in 2 days. And in those 2 days, I did as many courses as I could related to Canva, related to copywriting. And then I said, here's the proposal. Here's what I can do for you. Here's my plan. Let me know if this works. And she said yes. And that project ended up being a huge success. We got around $10,000 in the launch period in the first 7 days, attributed to social media, to the copy, the content that I helped her with. And then I understood, and that became a huge, good revenue stream for me because we had periodic launches, and I, of course, got my confidence through that. Now, coming to social media, I realized when I tried to break down why I got successful, why did the e-commerce thing not work, why did social media work instead? I realized it was because I was mostly into copy and content. Copy and content was one of my unique pillars that I used to think outside of the box. And so that was something in my mind, in the back burner. And then what I used to do was I tried to pivot mostly into copywriting. And then I started building a personal brand. I tried Fiverr, I tried Upwork. I didn't get a lot of success in that. So I tried building a personal brand on LinkedIn. And I tried to post related to copywriting tips, strategies, case studies, broke down fundamentals. And instead of people reaching out to me for copywriting, they asked me like, hey, we like the way you write posts. Can you build our personal brand? And then that made me, that was kind of a sign from me, like, okay, this is what the market needs and this is what I have. And ghostwriting on LinkedIn compared to copywriting, it's not much of a difference. It's at the end, it's just writing. The pillars and the fundamentals remain the same. That is when I pivoted towards LinkedIn ghostwriting. And that was a good moment for me in the sense that I worked with some great people at Microsoft, Uber, Vice. Bitcoin, some consultants at Deloitte, and that was my first taste in working globally, and especially working one to one with founders. And as I told you, I never had really a lot of business knowledge, and because there are a lot of fundamentals that come up with business too, a lot of mindset changes. So the good thing about me ghostwriting for these people, for these founders, for these consultants, I got direct knowledge, got direct access to their years of experience, and I could ask them whatever they want. And I use this thing called, I used to call it the hidden podcast. So similarly, you ask me my backstory, everything. To an extent, podcasts you would know are to an extent they're crafted in a way that, of course, seems perfect for social media, for distribution. But those podcasts, those podcasts that I used to have with them, I used to say like, hey, this is going to be completely raw. I'm going to ask you questions that's going to make you uncomfortable. And that's fine. And it'll stay between us. That way it could you can say I channeled my inner therapist in that side just to ask more questions from different angles, but just it was more so because for both. One, I realized these founders have huge, they have immense knowledge, but they just don't know how to just put it into content, so they needed someone to actually just lay it out in front of them and then just channel it into towards social media. And for me, it was me being paid to learn. So I asked them questions that was like interesting. I'm being paid for something that I'm enjoying to do. So for long story short, I was doing LinkedIn for 2 years, but I realized with time, especially with creative skills, there's not a lot of scalability, and I wanted to scale. I wanted to grow. So what I did was I tried to pivot towards an external or complementary platforms like Facebook ads. There was a client that I recently onboarded, and we ran Facebook ads with them. They partnered so the ministry, and we got good results with them. And of course, right now we're working in good terms. But throughout in the middle, I kind of like I would say gave you like a huge summary about it, how I went into funnels and Facebook ads and copywriting and all that. But in the middle, there was I used to suffer a lot from shiny object syndrome. Things um, I hopped into NFTs, I hopped into crypto. There were a lot of things that I had in the middle. But so far, but I would say that is what led me here. And all of my failures, I would say, got me to this point. So I'm happy about that.
That's an amazing kahani, man. And most of the Pakistani youngsters have this type of kahani. Like, they basically live in a background where they are taught they have to live with the boundaries. They have to literally live the mediocre life for their lifespan, and also like follow the footsteps of what others did. Nobody like basically allows you to take your steps, take your journey forward. And I really appreciate that. And you did it. And the way you did it with the limited resources, it's an really inspiration for a lot of Pakistani people and even for me as well. Like, in Pakistan, we always complain we have this problem, we have this problem, we have this problem, but nobody talks about the solutions. What are the solutions that we can do from our end, right?
100%. And it's not just, I would say, even outside of Pakistan, I've had chats with people in the UK, people in the same stage that I was previously. And the reality is, you sometimes have to come out of your comfort zone. And when I say that on the superficial level, it might sound a little cliche. Okay, comfort zone, you get out of your comfort zone, you go to the gym, things like those. Just you step out of where you are comfortable at. But it goes deeper than that. It goes to the extent of your environment, of your social circle. Because there's a famous saying, you're the average of five people you spend the most time with. And that's not more so in the numerical sense, it's more so about how your entire frame of thinking and the decisions that you make in your daily life are dictated by the people that you hang out with the most. And if you're not ready to get out of that environment and then just step out and then build your own way, you can't achieve your next level if you don't give up what you have right now. So comfort zone comes in different layers. It comes in like not waking up early, that's like the basic part of it. But at the highest level, it's things in the environment, your people, it could be even your family, your loved ones. You have to come out of that. You have to let go of something to achieve something greater. So yeah, you're spot on with that.
That's so true. Even Gen Z, they love to live in our comfort zone, and we proudly say that we don't want to get out of it. But it's very important to get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, man, 100%.
How this basically, mindset shift, founder shift happened to you, and how you realized that this is basically what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be a founder. How you realized?
Great question, man. I would say it came not as it didn't come overnight. It was a very iterative process because when I was starting off, was not I was very risk averse. I wanted to play it safe. I just wanted an income and then I just wanted, live a comfortable life. But then the more I stepped into this zone, the more I realized I have to embrace uncertainty. Pain is a part of the process. And I would say it just takes a long time to rewire your existing beliefs. And it's not about learning something new. It's about unlearning what you were taught and then relearning something new that would get you to the next level. So I would say the biggest way or the best way I actually learned that was just putting myself out there, not thinking about it. I used to dwell on a lot of decisions, but I realized Alex Hormozy talks about this quote: "Money loves speed." And if you're always thinking about the next decision, you're always overthinking, you're not taking action, just then you won't attract good business, you won't attract the right network. And the top business owners in the world, they take decisions. They take small decisions quickly. In long decisions, they may take a certain bit of time, like huge investments, whether that's scaling to a new market, scaling to a new product. They think about that, but they don't think about the daily decisions like, hey, talk to me about this candidate, or should we interview this candidate or not. They don't think about that. They're just working on autopilot. So I would say that a lot of quick decision making, a lot of putting myself out there, that kind of just naturally rewired me to have a more business oriented mindset.
That's so true. Even in basically entrepreneurship, they say fail fast, pivot fast. Basically,
That's nice.
Maarij, you have an amazing story. Now we are all pumped up, and I also have planned to learn a lot from this podcast today. So I wanted to ask you some of the like technical questions related to your field that I think can benefit a lot of our audience, as most of our audience is founders. So you have worked with founders and influencers on their personal brand, right? So even basically, you have seen like the shift in the world. Like even Mark Zuckerberg is making reels now, telling his personal story, being his own ambassador of his own company, right? So what do you think? What is the most common mistake that founders do in making their personal brand?
That's a good question. I would say this is more of a modern problem right now, but it's more so about over reliance on AI. And so there are a lot of aspects that go into a personal brand, right? And the biggest part to growing your personal brand is documenting your own journey. People want to know like what you have to offer, where you come from, how they can relate to you, and of course, what you have achieved that builds your authority. But people, I use a metric in my internal team when I'm trying to talk to them or give them edits or guidance about copywriting, about content. I tell them, hey, if this is if someone is able to Google or Chat GPT this, then it's not a good idea. It's not a good post. So you want to give them something that they cannot use GPT for, they cannot use AI for. That is something that comes from you. That is something that comes from your journey, your expertise, your case studies, your past, and you just reverse engineer from there. That's one big mistake that I find. And outside of that is just not honing down into their backstory. And the reason I say that is because some of the founders that I've worked with founders usually have a control problem and a perception problem, and they want to be perceived in a particular way, and that's fine. It got them to where they are. But in terms of content, people don't like like a perfect picture. They don't want to see Harvey Specter. Like everyone loves Harvey Specter, but the reason where you could relate more to him, and I don't know if you watched the series Suits, but spoiler alert for anyone who's watching this, but around the end of the series, you actually get to know one of Harvey's biggest insecurities, and that is what made him a better character. So coming back to the personal branding aspect, they just want to seem perfect. Everyone wants to seem perfect. They want to see like an amazing guy. Or look at this guy; he's at the top 1%, no mistakes whatsoever. So I would say you have to play that strategically. You don't want to be too vulnerable that it hurts your positioning, but you don't want to be too perfect that people just see you as a wannabe. So I think that's kind of like a way to go about it.
That's very, very true. Basically, people like relatability a lot these days. Even like if you have seen, even with the movie stars from in the generation of like 90s and 80s, people feel like the movie stars are just like something else. They are greater than us, and they wanted to see that, yeah, Shah Rukh Khan getting out of his car, waving, larger than life things, right? But right now with Gen Z and with social media, influencers are getting more famous than the mainstream celebrities, right? Because they are more relatable to the people. So talking
Yeah,
about
100%.
yeah, so talking about AI basically, do you see it as a shortcut or do you see it as a strategy?
So I would say it can be both. Right now, majority of people are using it as a shortcut, and while most people need to use it as a strategy consultant. The reason I say this is because the human mind naturally wants to does not like to expand energy. There are three types of tasks, and there's a guy that I follow. He's one of the best marketers that I've seen, Alan Sultanich. A lot of people don't know about him, but he has a book. It's called AC, yeah, Automatic Clients. He has a specific model. It's called the AC funnel. And in that book, he talks about there are three types of energies. There is mechanical tasks, mechanical energy, strategic energy, and then creative energy. Mechanical tasks are mostly tasks that you spend, like, responding to emails, messaging people in the group, and just a lot of tasks that seem like they're needle movers, but they're not actually. That's one side to it. A lot of people waste most of their time there. Then comes strategic energy. That's like kind of like the highest level of what moves the business. I don't think I don't need to explain all that more, but then comes creative energy. Now these are things like writing, sitting down, trying to think of creative angles in your marketing strategy. Let's say in the design aspect, you want to see how you can make the perfect poster, the perfect infographic. So that is where the most amount of energy that's spent is on creative sides. Now, naturally, if you would understand, human beings, they don't like to expand energy. Then you have creative tasks that take us the most energy. And then there's AI that's going to outsource everything. So it gels out, coming back to the shortcut thing. So a lot of people are using AI as a medium to outsource their thinking. While that should not be the case, they should think of it as a research tool mostly that you can perhaps do market research with, see what's wrong with your audience, see what's wrong with the product that is currently in the market, and how you can benefit from that. And you just do most of the thinking. You just let AI do most of the heavy lifting in terms of gathering resources, but then you take the decisions. Unfortunately, people aren't using it that way.
That's so true. But like I believe that as I'm a huge AI advocate, so I believe that basically AI has uh, faster the ways of the things that we are doing. And now we to keep up with the world and to make progress, we have to implement AI into our life and we have to use AI into our businesses as well. But I wanted to ask you like how founders can like be their original and make their voice original while using AI for basically content making and for making fun.
100%. So when we're looking at AI as an assistant, number one, we have to look at AI as an assistant, as you can say a digital intern more so than a decision maker. So you have to understand that we humans are complex thinkers. No one has ever understood how the human mind thinks, and AI, whatever it has gone to at this moment, it's because of what us as humans have done. Now, coming to how founders can utilize AI in maintaining their authentic voice, I would say there's a fun analogy that I like to make, and whenever I'm onboarding a client or working with a client, just to understand them in the best way possible, just to chameleonize their voice, I ask them a question, and that is, if you were a celebrity, who would you be and why? So a lot of people they understand. For example, if someone wanted to be, let's say, same example as before, Harvey Specter, someone wanted to be Alex Hormozy, someone wanted to be Elon Musk. So that because I asked this question more so one because of my team and I that we can understand analogically, okay, this is how they want to be perceived because we've interacted with celebrities, most of us have. So we understand how they talk. And one for the founder, a lot of founders, they don't really know their authentic voice. That's the issue. And even that's a common issue, even like with people who, like I do personal branding, but I oftentimes struggle because I want to see myself and from an external lens. So oftentimes I ask people with like other marketers that I'm working with, and I ask them like, hey, who do you think that I sound like? Who do you think my voice matches as? But coming where AI would fit into this whole criteria is number one, you have to identify who you want to actually be like. Once you have a solid understanding of how that works, then you tell AI like, hey, this is my voice, this is my tone of voice. Ask me questions on how, on what values, core values or characteristics or my perceptions are about XYZ topic. So you want to use AI as more of a diagnostic tool to understand like, okay, where are you? What are your actual beliefs? Like if, for example, Abu Bakr, if I were to ask you like, what are your core beliefs? Most likely you won't be able to answer because that's the kind of things that are embedded within your personality. So using AI just as a reflection tool just to mirror your personality. And if you understand your personality, you'll be able to easily nail your personal brand.
That's so true. That's why people have to learn prompt engineering, like how to get benefits from the AI. And also for prompt engineering, maybe at Founders we launch some course for prompt engineering. So yeah, people sign up for that. You need it. Okay.